Good morning, everyone. I hope this finds you doing well. I'm Spirit Paris McIntyre, Spirit They Them Pronouns, and I'm really excited to talk to you about Got Budget, the first step to having and preparing for a collaboration. Before we do anything further, I want us to do a grounding. And a grounding is an opportunity for us to regulate together, to just take some breaths and be present in the moment. This grounding, I'm going to use some music that I created, and we're going to focus on budget. And I want you to think about the word budget. Budget could be your wallet. It could be your bank account. It could be imaginary at this point. Maybe you are at the beginning of creating a budget. And I want you to imagine it getting larger. Can you visualize it? See your budget in your mind? I want you to just imagine it getting bigger, more expansive, more resourced. Let's take a few breaths in that energy. Inhale. Inhale. Last one, inhale. Thank you so much for taking those breaths with me. As I said at the top, I'm Spirit Paris McIntyre, Spirit They Them Pronouns. And I am a composer, a cellist, a singer, a speaker. And for the past 20 plus years, I've been collaborating with various creatives. And by creatives, I mean choreographers, dancers, theater folks, poets, filmmakers. And it's given me a lot of experience. And it's important, what I've learned is it's important to intentionally build relationships in your creative spaces. This makes the creative space so juicy, so vibrant, so amazing. So you might think to yourself, what does Got Budget have to do with intentional relationship building? Well, if you are wanting to collaborate with an artist and you reach out to that artist, right? That artist has been honing their craft for you don't know how many years, right? If they're like me and they started at 7, it's been a bunch of years. So they've been honing that craft. So when you reach out to them and they say, "What's your budget?" and you're like, I don't have one. Wait, you don't do this for free, right? That is a really hard foot to intentionally build relationship on, right? Because you're telling that artist, like, I don't value what you do. I didn't even think about that, right? I'm not actually ready for you. And that's not how you want to start out those relationships. No, 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 no. So, Got Budget is a first step in preparing to collaborate. It's a very important first step. So, do you have a budget, right? You want to collaborate with an artist. Have you asked yourself, do you have a budget? So today we're going to deal with the answers of yes, no, and yes, and. Okay. So, yes, I have a budget. Fantastic. how do you know if the budget that you have is adequate? Right. So, have you researched the types of artists that you want to work with and what they should get paid? Do you know those numbers? Right. Have you reached out to be like, hey, you're a poet, you're a writer, you're a singer, you're a musician, you're an actor. Um, what do you generally charge for your work? Or what's the range of the scope of the work that you do? And how do you get paid? Right. Because some artists might get paid by the hour, some artists might get paid by the project. Some artists might get paid, and the project could be a week, could be a day. I remember hiring a percussionist once, and he was like, my rates are by the day so that you can block me out for a whole day, right? I don't work by the hour. So I'll come to your studio, you'll pay me for the day, and then I can work on whatever you have going on that day. I'm locked in. And I was like, wow, that's good information. I did not know that, right? So you might say, yes, I have a budget. Is it adequate? So, first step, yes, you have a budget. I want you to research the types of artists that you want to work with. And so that you can know, is my budget adequate? Is it effective? Right? Am I going to insult an artist if I tell them my budget, or am I going to honor them? Right? And I'll tell you, as someone who's been collaborating with a variety of artists for the past 20 plus years, when someone gets this step right, I feel so taken care of. I feel like, oh my goodness, this person says, yes, Spirit, we have the budget. We are ready for you. Thank you for these fires, these uh, little fires and responses in the chat. I really appreciate it. Yes, Spirit, we have a budget. And when their budget, let me tell you, when somebody's budget exceeds your desires, you feel taken care of. When somebody's budget meets your desires, you feel taken care of. When somebody's budget comes in way under your desires, it's the opposite, right? And that's really important to intentional relationship building. So, okay, so yes, you have a budget. Okay, now I want you to research who these artists are that you want to work with. Maybe you have your ideal artists, right? For example, right, Beyonce money may not be the same as, I'm not going to try and insult anyone by saying someone else's name, but right, you trying to pay Beyonce level, you got to have Beyonce money, right? You can't come to Beyonce with like, you just came out money, like you're just making your first record money, album money. You can't do that, right? So you also want to research the level, the tier of artists that you want to work with. If y'all feeling what I'm saying in the chat, if this is making sense, let me know, let me know, let me know. Okay, so I said 1, yes, you have a budget, right? So 2, your response to got budget might be like, no, I don't have a budget. Okay, does that mean it's the end of the story? Pack up your bags, go home, right? No, it does not mean that. If you say, Spirit, no, I don't have a budget. Okay, well, let's think about it. What do you have, right? If you are a videographer, a filmmaker, you have access to really dope film equipment, recording equipment, right? If you are a photographer, I'm assuming here, you probably have really dope cameras, right? You can take really beautiful, high resolution shots, right? If you are a sound engineer, you have the ability to record folks, to document folks. If you are a theater owner, you have a theater that folks could come perform in, right? So no is not necessarily you have no budget, right? You have resources. Do you have resources? So you might say, you know what? Before I reach out to an artist, I recognize I don't have a budget. However, I do recognize I have all of these in kind services that I could offer to a professional artist, to a collaborator. Those things are valuable. If you understand what I'm saying, if you're here, drop valuable in the chat. Those things are super duper valuable. Okay. Because depending on where an artist, a potential collaborator is, they might say, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful you reached out to me. You didn't lead with, I don't have a budget. You're leading with how I can compensate you is I can document work that you are doing. I can photograph work that you're doing. I can record work that you're doing, right? So no to got budget is not no to having a project. It just means being more thoughtful, right? Using a different thought process. Okay, this is especially important for students, students that are connected to universities, that are connected to production houses or things like that. Maybe you're an intern at a production house, um, because when you're in college, people that are in college, you have so much access to resources, right? So if you are an actor in college, you might have access to rehearsal space that could be very valuable to a potential artist. You have access to your school's equipment, right? Depending on what you're going to school for, you have access to your school's equipment, and then you can make that available to a potential collaborator. And that's also, right, resources. So that step 2 is really valuable. If you say, no, I don't have a budget, but I'm going to look at my resources. Okay. So I said, yes, no, yes, and, right, as a response to got budget. If you said yes, and you heard what I said for the no response, you can add that to your yes. So, yes, I have a budget and I have access to film equipment. I want to document you. I want to take all of these brilliant photographs of you, right? So, that is just adding to the value of your project, right? So, that's even more relationship building. That's even more added value, right? These are all pro tips that I'm giving you. So I hope that you are documenting these tips because I want you as a collaborator, as a person who has collaborated, who enjoys collaboration, I want you to be better set up to have brilliant collaborations. I want you to be reaching out to artists and knowing like I'm coming to this artist correct. We're going to intentionally relationship build. We're going to have a beautiful project together. I want this for you. I want this for my potential, right? For my future collaborations. I want this for you. And I've definitely had experiences over the past 20 plus years where folks didn't get this part right. They didn't get the budget part right. Right. So I want you to be getting the budget part right. Are there any questions on what I've shared so far? I really appreciate you all being here with me. So any questions on why it's important to have a budget and how to think about creating a budget for your future collaborations? While I wait to see if there are any questions, I also want to just talk about this. I want to caution you on use of the E word, right? What's the E word, Spirit? I'm so glad you asked me that. The E word is exposure. How many artists have had someone offer them exposure? Very rarely, almost never is the exposure someone is offering you. I saw somebody hit 100%. I know you feel that. Very rarely is the exposure that someone is offering you something you actually want to be exposed to. Well, right, exposure. I can't invest in my family with exposure. I can't pay my bills with exposure. I can't build legacy. I can't, help the next generation of artists with exposure. So resist the E word, resist it, resist using that in place of a budget. No, just budget. Now, create a budget. Now you might say, Spirit, how do I create a budget? That's less of my wheelhouse. However, I will say, depending on who you're looking to collaborate with. So if you're looking to collaborate with BIPOC artists, that is Black, Indigenous, people of color, there are often grants to support you in that way. You have to do your research, but there are grants, right? If you're working with other communities at different intersections, such as trans folks, trans and gender nonconforming folks, right? There you can find some grants that are specific to supporting transgender and gender nonconforming artists. If you are centering disabled artists, there often can be grants to support that work. So, right, that could be another way that you're building your budget. So I am so thankful that you all have given me your time today to talk about budgeting. I want to invite you to collaborate with me. You can have me come to your schools. I want to talk to your students. If you are professors, assistant professors, you work with creatives, you work with dancers, you work with theater professionals. I want to talk to your students. Invite me. You can hire me to come speak to your students about various aspects of collaboration, because I'm just sharing one tip today, right? So that is one way we can work together. And for the folks watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, I've just put up a QR code so you can get right into my calendar to talk to me about that. For folks watching on Instagram, thank you for being here. You can go to the link in my bio, and it's the first link in my link tree, right? Get on my calendar. Are you a director, producer, professor? Are you the head of a business that hires artists? Let's talk. I can come in and speak to your community. I can come educate your students with my 20 plus years of experience as a collaborator. And Pride Month, June, is right around the corner. You can hire me. We can celebrate Pride together, right? And I can educate your students, educate your community. So please, let's work together, and also budget, budget, budget. So review one. Yes, you have a budget. Make sure you are researching how much the artists you desire to work with get paid, so that you can make sure your budget is adequate. No, you don't have a budget. Well, what do you have? Think about your tangible resources that you have that you could offer to a would-be collaborator. 3, yes, and. Yes, I have a budget, and I'm going to make that budget even better by offering the artists the resources I have as well, because why not? It makes just for a better collaboration. So I thank you so much for your time. Again, you can go to my link tree. If it's Instagram, it's at McIntyre Spirit. On Facebook, it's Spirit McIntyre or Spirit Paris McIntyre. You can find my link. I appreciate you so much. Let's collaborate. And here's to happy collaborating. Peace, y'all.